station after a great war. In the only remaining city lives the witch Grey Alys, famous for granting any request to those who can pay. Not very pleased with her heresies, the church decides to make an example of her and condemns her to the gallows. However, the priestess forgets that one of the witch's talents is precisely witchcraft, and it won't be so easy to execute her. Grey Alys enchants one of the soldiers of the clergy, and he sees himself with the rope around his neck. In panic, he breaks the rope with a shot and then realizes that he has just freed the condemned woman. Next, he sees the witch running toward him and opens fire, but he is actually shooting a colleague. Very confused, he falls to his knees and the priestess executes him with a dagger, declaring that he is no longer worthy of trust. She sends the others after the witch, but Grey Alys stealthily attacks them one by one. When only the priestess remains, the witch surprises her with a blade, and being threatened, the priestess has the rope placed around her neck and hangs from the gallows while the witch walks away. At the same time, a hunter named Boyce is arriving in the city. About to walk into an ambush, he makes a point to announce that he knows this and doesn't move when the thugs begin to surround him. One of them tries to grab a weapon, but jumps in fright upon seeing a pair of snakes coiled around it. The bite doesn't take long, and the thug writhes on the ground while his companions are quickly eliminated by Boyce's accurate marksmanship. After finishing off all of them, he collects his snakes, proud of his effectiveness. Meanwhile, Grey Alys leaves a coin for the blind beggar and is startled when the poor woman thanks her as she calls her by name. The woman explains that she recognized her generosity, something that is becoming increasingly rare around there. However, she finds it strange that the witch's voice hasn't changed in so many decades, as she herself is younger than Grey Alys. A little later, the witch receives a visit from the knight Juraeus and doesn't let him finish introducing himself, already guessing the farce. The true client is the queen, who is disguised under a cloak. When Grey Alys asks what the wish is, she asks to be left alone with her. Juraeus protests, warning that it may be dangerous, but does not dare to disobey. As soon as the knights leave, the queen says she knows Grey Alys's origin. She came from the Lost Lands, where the most terrible creatures defy the laws of nature. Then the queen says she wants to obtain the secret of metamorphosis, as she wishes to be able to transform into a wolf. The witch warns that this kind of request can have unpleasant consequences, but the queen says that this is none of her business. The witch accepts the money, as she never refuses anyone's request. The plan is to send a hunter to the Lost Lands to capture a shapeshifter and then steal their power. She asks the queen to give her until the next full moon, which will occur in 6 days. After the agreement is sealed, Knight Juraeus returns to the witch's hideout. He says he also wants to do business and offers a family heirloom, a watch that is his most valuable possession. Juraeus's request is that she fails the queen's mission and does not give her the power of metamorphosis. He swears he is loyal to the crown and is only asking this to protect the queen, but the witch denies it, detecting the odor of envy on the knight. Despite this, she accepts the watch and repeats that she never refuses a request. Finally alone, Grey Alys begins to levitate, and her mind is flooded with visions of a sinister cave. A group of brave hunters walks over stacked skulls to face the beast that lives inside, but soon a terrible werewolf emerges from the shadows. The vision ends when the beast lunges at the group with a cruel howl. In the palace, the queen is losing patience with the weakness of her husband, the Supreme Lord. She calls for attendants to care for him while she sneaks out to say goodbye to Boyce, who is her lover. On her way out, the soldiers intercept him in the name of the Supreme Lord and arrest him, but Boyce spits his drink at one of their torches and takes down the two easily. Later, Grey Alys approaches him at a bar table and says she is looking for a competent hunter to take her to the Lost Lands. He explains that the city's rules do not apply in that territory, doubting she can keep up with him on such a dangerous mission. Grey Alys shows no fear and gives him permission to abandon her if she becomes a burden. However, she warns that she will do the same to him if necessary. After hearing the mission's details, Boyce mentions that he has heard about the werewolf haunting a place called Skull River. The witch then offers him Juraeus's watch as payment for the trip to that location. Just after they finalize the deal, the bar is invaded by the soldiers of the clergy who still want to capture the witch. Boyce joins her, and the two escape by a hair's breadth, but the twin snakes do not survive the priestess's sword. The news of yet another failure soon reaches the ears of the church's patriarch, and he promises a reward for the capture of the fugitives. However, according to the confiscated pamphlets, Grey Alys is becoming a symbol of resistance, inspiring everyone to fight against the powerful each time she escapes the gallows, having also not hanged the priestess when she had the chance. This causes the clergy to tighten the siege, and even the poor blind woman is captured. Under pressure, she reveals that the queen visited Grey Alys recently, which greatly interests the patriarch. He demands that the priestess obtain a complete confession from the witch before eliminating her. At this point, the two adventurers are already on their way to the Lost Lands. The first stop is a trading post, where Boyce introduces Grey Alys to his friend Ross and his sister Mara. Although she meets him with a shotgun, Mara quickly changes her tone and shows herself to be more than just a friend to Boyce. During dinner, the witch states that they must reach their destination before the full moon, as she needs to catch the target in his wolf form. Boyce thinks the deadline is too tight and says that this will only be possible if they follow the train track, crossing the mountains through the tunnels. After spending the night with Mara to catch up, Boyce sets off in the morning with Grey Alys and warns that from then on, there will be no more welcoming friends. Little does he know that the priestess is coming by train to capture the duo. Upon hearing this, the queen confronts the patriarch, saying that those soldiers are more useful here in the city. He responds by mentioning the rumors of infidelity about her and the effect they could have on the populace, regardless of whether they are lies. After this conversation, the patriarch becomes convinced that the queen will not be an ally of the clergy and decides to prepare in case the Supreme Lord dies. When the train arrives at the trading post, Ross and Mara are pressured to tell what they know. Seeing her brother being beaten by the soldiers, Mara can only hold out until one of them brings a hot iron, and she begins to scream that the witch is headed for Skull River. Even after getting what she wanted, the priestess orders her men to set fire to everything. Now there are only 3 days left until the full moon, and the duo arrives at a place known as the Rift. Boyce calls a known acquaintance, Cyrus, who operates an improvised kind of cable car. However, as Boyce continues to call out and Cyrus does not respond, they enter through a side door and begin looking for him. After crossing several filthy corridors, they discover what is left of Cyrus and guess that the priestess has already been there before them. Backtracking through the corridor, they find her wearing a pair of sunglasses. All the soldiers have the same accessory to avoid being controlled by the witch through eye contact. The priestess then addresses Boyce and offers a handsome reward if he delivers the witch to her without fuss. He says he regrets it, but she hired him first. Only then does Boyce see Mara hanging on the wall and becomes completely enraged. She still gathers all her strength to call his name one last time, and the priestess takes it upon herself to deliver a mercy shot right in front of Boyce. This infuriates the hunter even more, and he begins to shoot at the soldiers, while Grey Alys demonstrates that she does not need magic to defeat anyone. As soldiers fall, a new wave appears with sickles and axes, but the duo manages to handle them too. Only the priestess remains still in the midst of the battle, confident that there will always be a subordinate to take the bullet for her. When Grey Alys notices the cannon turning in her direction, it is already almost too late. The two escape the explosion by a hair's breadth and run into the wagon, triggering the mechanism from a distance with a shot. Some soldiers manage to get inside too, and one of them jumps on top of the car, making several holes in the roof with shots. Grey Alys is forced to climb up as well to deal with him. When the priestess sees that the witch is winning the fight, she orders them to cut the cable. Her men obey and quickly release the first, leaving the wagon hanging and tilted. Then she herself breaks the second with a bullet, and the gesture practically catapults the wagon. It crashes against the mountain wall, and Grey Alys shouts to Boyce that the only way out is to climb. This is easier for her, who is already outside, but Boyce is still balancing inside the wagon. Moreover, the rope that keeps him hanging is also about to snap. It finally breaks just as Boyce manages to leap to the rocky wall, following Grey Alys. The priestess does not give up and shoots from the other side of the rift, hitting the hunter's shoulder. However, when she goes to aim for the second shot, she forgets the spell and looks directly into the witch's eyes. The contact is brief, but enough to leave her confused and lose focus. Later, Boyce removes the bullet from his shoulder, and Grey Alys helps him, stitching up the wound. At that moment, he tells her that she is very much like him, and that he knew that since he first looked into her eyes. Meanwhile, in the palace, the queen receives news that she is pregnant. Very pleased, she tells her almost paralyzed husband that the future Supreme Lord is the son of a peasant named Boyce. After the confession, she pushes a pillow against his face and holds it tightly until he stops breathing. With 2 days until the full moon, Boyce and Grey Alys arrive at an old military zone called Shadow Bane. Hearing the train approaching, they are forced to hide in the ruins of a power plant. Boyce warns about the creatures that live there and says they need to keep a flame burning all night, as fire is the only thing they fear. Then the lights begin to flicker on slowly, and a chilling sound starts coming from all directions. A grotesque creature emerges from the shadows, baring its teeth. Boyce ignites a circle of fire around them, but that doesn't work as well as expected. One of the monsters is a bit braver and jumps over the flames, entering the circle. Boyce narrowly dodges its claws, which leave a deep mark on the ground. Then the thing starts to grapple with Grey Alys, twisting its head. Boyce manages to push the monster against a metal bar, but it begins to remove it as if it felt nothing from the blow. Then Grey Alys throws one of her sickles at a barrel, causing an explosion. This seems to irritate the upper echelon of the other race that was watching everything from the top of the structure. They leap onto the invaders, and the leader calls the witch by her name. He comes face to face with Grey Alys, not knowing that this was his greatest mistake. Hypnotizing the enemy with her gaze, she forces him to step back and unleashes a fire blast that spreads through the creatures, defeating them all at the same time. Exhausted, she collapses into her friend's arms and confesses that she already knew the leader of the monsters. She explains that this place hides a treasure, something capable of granting immense power to whoever possesses it. One day, a man hired her services to help him acquire that treasure. She accepted, for she does not refuse anyone's request, but it had terrible consequences. That man became the monster that just died. On the morning of the last day before the full moon, the Patriarch announces to the subjects that the Supreme Lord is dead. He also says that the Queen is expecting a baby and demands that the new Supreme Lord be exalted, but the audience remains silent. The Patriarch exchanges worried glances with Jaraeus, and the knight orders the royal guard to point their weapons at the crowd. With that encouragement, the subjects fall in line and begin to repeat phrases of jubilation. The Queen thanks the Patriarch, full of falseness, and he also pretends to be pleased with the situation while continuing to plot against her. Speaking to the priestess, he orders the soldiers to hurry, for now, only with the witch's confession will he be able to depose the Queen. Meanwhile, Boyce and Grey Alys arrive at the Fields of Fire, which is the last stop before Skull River. She warns that she needs to face the werewolf alone and extends the watch to him as payment. Boyce says she will not survive the encounter with the beast without help and refuses to go away. He tries to convince her to abandon this mission, but she insists that she has no choice. At the same time, the Queen is telling Jaraeus that now only the Patriarch can remove her from power. He assures her that the royal guard is stronger and more numerous than the clergy's army, but that does not convince her much. She starts to play charm with him, asking if he would really do anything for her, and the conversation ends with a kiss. Outside, Boyce and Grey Alys are passing through a tunnel when they feel the tracks trembling. Boyce says they won't be able to run faster than the train, but the witch has other plans. The priestess can't believe it when she sees him standing in the middle of the tracks, ready for the collision. But just when the locomotive comes closer, Grey Alys takes off running toward the mouth of the tunnel. Still under pressure from the Patriarch, the priestess accelerates to the maximum and only realizes the trap when there is no time to brake. There is a large cliff just after the tunnel, and the bridge is broken. Thus, the tracks end right over the abyss. Hidden in the beams beneath the bridge, Boyce grabs his friend's hand as she jumps, but nothing can save the train passengers, which ends up exploding in the fall. From the palace, the Patriarch only hears the final screams of the priestess and concludes that his plan has failed. Furious, he decides to take the throne by force and starts giving orders to the soldiers, but no one moves. Those closest to him collapse to the ground, revealing Jaraeus' figure. He accuses the Patriarch of treason and condemns him to death, executing the sentence right there. Arriving at Skull River, Grey Alys is shocked by the number of stacked skeletons, and Boyce explains that those were all who dared to face the werewolf. However, there is not a trace of him at the moment, and the fire seems to have not been lit for a long time. Grey Alys says that tonight will be the full moon, and he will surely come. Boyce continues to try to convince her to give up, while Jaraeus also tries to make the Queen forget about this plan, but both fail equally. Only when the full moon appears in the sky does Grey Alys confess that she knew the truth from the beginning. The werewolf is Boyce himself. He is already feeling the onset of the metamorphosis and swears he did everything to warn her, but she does not believe him. The transformation is very painful this time, as there is an object beneath his skin that seems to be leaking a silvery liquid. Nevertheless, the change completes, and he lunges at the witch, but does not take his eyes off hers. Falling into hypnotism, he sees her as a flock of crows that unite in the sky to form a giant bird. The two monsters clash, and the werewolf is struck by the witch's claws amid the combat. She seizes the moment to tear him further until she sees him fall to the ground as though dead. He reverts to his human form when the clouds cover the moon, and Grey Alys cares for him tenderly, advising him to rest. But when he wakes up, he sees he is chained, and the witch confesses her entire plan. After the priestess shot him in the shoulder, Grey Alys placed the silver coin beneath his skin while stitching up the injury, knowing it was the only way to weaken him. Now she needs to fulfill her agreement with the queen and take the power of the wolf from him. But when she raises the dagger, Boyce makes his own request. His wish is for Grey Alys herself as his companion. Once again, the witch replies that she never refuses a request, but warns that the price may be too high. When the full moon appears in the sky again, Boyce transforms once more, and she plunges the dagger into the wolf's skin. Covering his body with stones, she leaves the watch on top as payment and returns to the city. The return of the invincible witch has a tremendous effect on the populace, and the workers begin to revolt. Grey Alys hands the wolf's skin to Juraeus and says that the queen must drip her own blood on it before donning it. She warns that this must be done that very night without fail. The knight asks for his watch back, arguing that she chose to fulfill the queen's request. Grey Alys tells him that the queen is pregnant by a man named Boyce. Taking his life, she tells Juraeus that she gave him what he really wanted. The queen is devastated to learn of Boyce's death and reveals that she only wanted to be a wolf so she could be with him uninterrupted. Juraeus tries to calm her and once again says that he would do anything for her. Furious, she demands that he die and buries a sharp hairpin in his neck. By this time, the people have already stormed the castle, and she is forced to flee. The sun rises, burning the wolf's skin and destroying the desires of both the queen and Juraeus. At Skull River, the stones begin to stir over Boyce's body, which is still alive. He returns to the city and confronts Grey Alys about the betrayal. She says she only removed the wolf's skin without intending to harm him and knew that Boyce would survive. To prove she is telling the truth, she predicts that he will shoot at her anyway, but his gun will jam. Paying to see, Boyce pulls the trigger, and the gun indeed jams. Grey Alys pulls out a dagger just as he does, and they both press their blades against each other's throats. The stalemate ends in laughter, and the duo decides to make amends, thus fulfilling Boyce's wish.